Hello. Welcome to another episode of Ball Over Passion. I'm your boy at George V_AFC, and we've got Chris and Curran here. Boys, how we doing? Are we good?
I'm good.
I did not know we were introducing ourselves by our handles now. If that's a thing, apparently.
No,
we
I
don't
just
have names
do
anymore.
It's now my thing. It's like the like, comment, subscribe bell that happens at the end. Now I just introduce myself as George V_AFC.
Guys in the comments, whenever you refer to him now, if you see him in real life, if you're in Canada by any chance, or if you wanted to comment in the comments, just refer to him as George V_AFC.
That's how sometimes when you're at like when you got some like presentations and you got to do, I don't know about you guys, if you guys got to do this, but like in Canada we got to like say, listen, we acknowledge the land that we're on, and there's like a little bit of a preface in terms of what you say in terms of like the Aboriginal people. And so right now what we're doing is we're going to be doing our handles. So now every time pre-presentation you're going to go social media handles first, and then boom, how you doing?
Oh, Jesus Christ. But anyway, yeah, it's Bodø. We're away. We're playing on some artificial surface now, and we're playing in the middle of nowhere. So,
no, I'm excited for that because let's have like a little bit of a segment because look, anybody that's played at a decent level know there is a difference between artificial turf and regular turf, and the speed of play is just massively different. It really is. Like if you look at players typically. It's not even just technical players that thrive. I think all players in general will notice that the ball won't catch and it will speed up. Facts. That's how the lady at Starbucks knows me. George V_AFC's got his Starbs ready. We're gonna get a brand deal from Starbs eventually. That's how we know that Ball Over Passion's made it. But no, like on a level, like I think artificial turf is something that it will be a part of this game. I don't think it'll ever affect us, but just in general, the reasons why you've got more injuries on artificial turf, but also you get a faster speed of ball. Like the ball won't catch as much as natural grass will. And so what you're going to get is that, every touch will be very, you could see poor touches just because the ball's coming at them quite a bit faster. Like you do have to change how you're going to receive quite a bit more. And, the pace of the ball that you're going to give is going to be vastly different on an artificial surface. And, a lot of times the reason that, artificial surface have a lot of more injuries is because it's got far less give than natural grass will, right? Like it's harder on your joints, of course, because, underneath it, there's that concrete surface really, right? So there isn't that give, but also cleats get caught quite a bit in artificial surface. So it is going to be something to worry about. Like I never enjoy games that there is artificial turf because there's a higher risk for injuries for me just by pure playing surface. So something to keep in mind. I mean, it's not something that we can avoid. I mean, it's the playing surface is the playing surface, but it is something to keep in note. But guys, I'll go to you. So really, I'll just run through the last Bodø fixture for us in terms of who we actually put out and what we can maybe do here. But we had Matt Turner, of course, in goal, and then we had Tomiyasu holding Gabriel Tierney back line, and then we had the midfield, which was an exciting one. Fabio Vieira, Lokonga, and Granit Xhaka, and then of course the front line of Marquinhos, Eddie Nketiah, and Gabriel Martinelli. Now, for me, when you start to look at it, this is something that I think Mikel is going to be absolutely in favor of maximizing his players. And I think people are going to be upset and we're going to have to deal with this stupid rotation thing for at least the next 2 games. And the reason I say that is because Mikel will want, and he said it in previous press conferences, he wants that round of 16 to be gone from our schedule in the February schedule. So, sorry, the 32. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so, for me, he's going to go strong. And, I think strong for me is a relative term, right? Like even, when you had a look at that lineup, people would argue that Granit Xhaka, Martinelli, as well as Gabriel are probably the only starters, which is wild, by the way. When you start to look at the squad turnover in this entire team, just in general, it really starts to get quite drastic. But 3 players are probably first team regulars at this point in Gabriel, Xhaka, and Martinelli. Now, how much do you need going into that Bodø game of us doing that? I don't know. I think for me, Gabriel Martinelli is definitely somebody that I don't think should start. But when you have a look at that, I think he's going to go strong. People are going to be annoyed. I mean, Martin Odegaard did the press conference, so he's starting.
It's going to be interesting because with Martin, it's his home country, obviously, and he's played on the surface growing up his entire life. So it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts to the surface because it's obviously his preferred surface. So I would personally go. I wouldn't have any starters, but I know what he's like. So for me, it'll probably be Holding, then it'll probably be Turner, and then I would say probably Gabriel, even though I would prefer Tomiyasu, Tierney.
Xhaka isn't by choice.
Yeah, Xhaka isn't by choice for sure. Yeah, he's the only one in the 11 that we don't necessarily have rotation for as long as Mohamed El Neni's injured. And so once he returns, it's definitely somebody that we can basically say, okay, listen, you're able to rotate with Lokonga at 8 because we've now got a DM that we can slot in. But until that happens, I think Lokonga is such a liability in terms of his positioning and also his intensity running back to goal that you're always going to have experience in front of him. And I don't think that, and I think that's for the better. I mean, if he's going to play 6 with his current defects, he needs to have experience play ahead of him. But I think the one thing I wanted to ask, Chris, and I'll get Curran, your opinion right after, is we've seen a couple bits of experimentation already from Mikel. We've seen the Odegaard left central midfielder, which is, by the way, something on BoP here we've highlighted for quite a while, that, Martin Odegaard will have to switch to that position at some point, because I think it's worth talking about our midfield makeup and also just in the future about what we can expect. So right now, currently, the way our midfield is structured, and I've had this debate on Twitter recently, so it's why it's fueled this question, but the right central midfielder position right now, as it stands with Martin Odegaard in that position and how he plays it, is more of a controller type. It's more of a deeper role in midfield. Granit Xhaka is the higher of the two midfield roles, right? And that's just general dynamics. I think, and I have a feeling that given Fabio Vieira, given Emile Smith-Rowe, who are both phenomenal at right central midfielder, given Ethan Nwaneri, by the way, who has a lot of technique, is somebody that can play higher up like that, I think we're going to see a switching eventually of the squad where the left central midfield is going to be the area where we control a little bit more of games, and you're going to have your Patinos drop, and we're going to see the right central midfield have a little bit more of a higher option.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the reason you're going to see Odegaard potentially move to left central midfielder down the line. And in the long term, if he's to make a position in this squad, he's going to have to become very adept in left central midfield. And now whether he does it or not, we can have a debate. I think that's for another time, but that's something I think we see in this game. And if you had Martin Odegaard there, I'd like to see Fabio Vieira at right central midfielder. Now, this isn't fixed positions. Of course, they're going to switch. They're both very interchangeable. They both have played both sides of the pitch. Fabio far more than Martin Odegaard. But Chris, for you, what other experimentation might you be willing to see that maybe we haven't seen in the Europa League? Tomiyasu left back. It's not left center back, but I hope we finally get that change, with this game, with Cedric hopefully returned from injury. But is there another position of experimentation that you might want to see? I mean, I'll probably put mine out there as Ben White DM, and I'll explain it a little bit later. But yourself, is there an experiment that you haven't seen that you think we could maybe see?
Well, restarting isn't really an experiment, but I would like to see him start because, as we said in the last preview, he was very good in Holland. Mm-hmm. He was very good in Europe. He was top 10 for shots on target average in the competitions he was in last season. So he was very good in Europe, and I would like to see him start left wing. Martinelli obviously has been on great form, 7 GA in the league, I think, 7. He was decent last week. Mm-hmm. But I'd like Reece there because, one, it would just be good to have more options, simply. That's the first thing. It would be nice to have options that are confident because Marquinhos, despite not playing well last week, is a confident player. And I just think the occasion got to him because it was
first home debut and all.
Yeah, first time at the Emirates. Not a must win, but we need to win. So it wasn't like he comes on. So he's never experienced coming on at the Emirates. So that's the first time. So I give him a pass for that. And then I like the Ben White DM chat, but this is something that I don't think we'll ever see. But Saka left centre mid, just because there's something about him being on the left side. The way he strikes the ball is very different. I think his movement is very different just on the left side. And even though I think he's much better at right wing, I've always said on BoP the past year that Saka could have been world class in 4 or 5 different positions. And I think left centre mid probably is one of them. So that is just an experiment that I'd like to see. Not because it'd benefit the team differently, just to see how Saka would perform at left centre mid. And then Tommy left centre back. Give Gabriel a rest. midweek. Let Tommy show his switches. Let Tommy show his progression, because I think he's better than Gabriel's. And he's just natural at left centre back. He's been playing there for Japan his whole international career. And
it's also his natural build, I feel, like being a six. Like, I've had these debates ad nauseum on the timeline. Like, when you have a look at it, I think for me, the biggest quality about Tomiyasu, by the way, is his speed in action in the first 5 yards. He's not somebody that's explosive necessarily. He's somebody that has an immense touch consistently. Like 9 out of 10, either foot, he will constantly shape the ball perfectly all the time. Now, he's somebody that can drive into midfield really, really well, but he's not somebody that's particularly dynamic with the ball. And so a lot of it is just straight line, running power or layoffs, and then it's maybe quick, long switches.
It doesn't suit the final third.
No, it does not suit the final third. It always suits the first phase. I mean, he's a dual monster. He's an aerial dominant player. And I mean, all of these things work towards being a phenomenal center back. And I think we've always had this, not even debate, like here on BoP, we've always said, look, he's a bridge right back. He's somebody that we're going to be looking at just while the squad needs a right back. He can perform the role. And, I've had these debates too on Twitter, like people keep saying he can do this or somebody can do that. Versatility doesn't mean that you should use them in that position. You have to put players in the zones of the pitch that they're most comfortable in. And I keep being adamant on that. Perfect example to the extreme is Bukayo Saka left back versus right wing. Can he become a phenomenal left back? Sure. Is he best there to maximize his qualities? Absolutely not. So no, Chris, I agree with you on the Bukayo Saka 8. I did say like long ago, he reminds me quite a bit of Clarence Seedorf in that position. And he definitely can do the role. I'd actually be really excited to see it, especially because I just want to see a ESR right center mid, and I've always just felt like
because I did want I don't remember what game it was, but I thought Erdegaard was performing poorly, and I just said bring Nketiah, Saka, and Smith Rowe on right now.
Yeah,
moves Saka and bring Smith Rowe on right now, and I just want to see him in midfield because one, it gives him he always wants to be central. He can do the touchline role, and he's got 18 goals and assists from the touchline role. But if you see him,
it doesn't come naturally to him. Like he has had to learn to attack the back post, right? Like it's not something that's come naturally.
He only started boasting in preseason.
Yeah,
he never did it before. But he, at certain points in most games, like even Newcastle last season, even this season versus Spurs, he just gets angry for a 10-minute period. And goes inside and just says, no one's moving me. And if someone does move him, he'll go all the way to the left wing just to get inside. So I wouldn't mind seeing him 8. And then Tommy centre back is, for me, just another option that when he first came was pretty much to me, because I called him a centre back. Like he's not a right back. He can do the role very well, just like Ben White can do.
Or a 30-year-old right.
I called him a 30-year-old right back. Center back. He's a center back.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like we'll probably get our idea on lineups, but Karen, I want to give you that question. Same thing. So, is there a particular experiment that you're willing to see? I mean, Emile Smith Rowe, when he's finally fit and able to do it. I mean, obviously he's away. Do I think he'll be fit after surgery? Yeah, very much so. Like we can talk about the injury very quick if you want, Curran. I mean, the pubis bone itself is the very last thing to mature in the skeleton. By the way, like in terms of like growth spurts and stuff, like it's literally the very last maturation in the skeletal body. So in fact, him having this, it has no bearing on his long-term future. I mean, it's very much something that young athletes can develop anywhere. I mean, it's not preventable. It's not something load related. None of this stupidity on the timeline about fitness or him lacking fitness. It's just literally people develop at different rates. And so that last bit of bone can take a really long time in some people. And, you can't predict it. It happens. So I think with the right treatment, it really is just about rest too. And it's really painful. It's just about irritation. We have this a lot of times with children in the knee, sometimes called Osgood Schlotters. If anybody's had that in the comments before, like that could be a very typical maturation pain. KT had it slightly different. His was actually an injury, to the groin, to the pubis symphysis. But this is actually just the growth plate hasn't become a bone. But enough medical talk because you haven't come here for medical talk. But Curran, your favorite experimentation, and is it Emile Smith Rowe at false 9?
No, it's. I'm surprised neither of you have said this. Marcelli striker. I think Marcelli a bit central.
I think he is more. So
I think he is central. I think he is central. But what I'm saying is say Eddie has to go off after say 75 minutes. We bring Reece on the left and move Marcelly central. I just want to see it. I want to see it. I've been begging for it for years. Just give me some Marcelly striker. I need to see it. He's our most informed attacker, and I want to see him more in the box, doing what he does great, winning aerial duels, which no one really brings up enough. He is an aerial duel monster. He's a ball striker. He used to be a great ball striker. His off the ball runs are great. There's nothing more you can say. I want to get him closer to goal, and if he's doing well off the left, and I'm happy with him off the left. But the best experiment I want to see is what is he like in the middle. I want to see him in the middle more.
I mean, he's moving far more central this season. Nobody can debate that. It isn't the same. Like our left wing isn't as static as
it's by instruction, because anyone who was left in pre-season was doing it. Reece Nelson, even Jesus, whenever they go left wing, they were inside on the penalty spot all the time.
But Chris, it's natural. Like this idea that, like, I've always pushed back. People just constantly. So when you talk about recruitment and names and targets, people just look at what we're doing right now and say, let me find the most similar player and profile to what we're doing now and suggest that as a gap in terms of what we need. And this idea that we're not going to become more fluid or change how we play is the most ludicrous statement I've ever seen. And so, no, I agree with you, Curran. Like I famously said that he's very Suarez-like. Like when I first saw him, it was my immediate thought. He is Suarez. And, in terms of our ability here at BoP, we've always said Martinelli striker is something that he'll transform into. And the funny thing is whenever you have these debates, by the way, even people that are staunch defenders of him at left wing, they always say, oh, by 25, he'll switch to a striker. But why wait 3-4 years? Do it now. Like I understand that you have a clogging at the number wise and quantity of it. But, if you really see him as that position long term, then start, allowing for you to do that quicker. Like, why would you wait 4 or 5 years if you see him best in that position in 4 years? So that's definitely something we can see. I'll just tie it up because I felt like Ben White DM. Now, look, I famously said to everybody, I'm going to narcissistically pat myself on the back, Ben White right back. I said that to everybody. It would happen. And now everyone's saying, oh, my God.
Let me cut you off.
We all did. What
annoyed me about the response to that, as I always said to you, is anyone who watched him last season before we bought him saw him play not even right back, right wing back. He played for Brighton for most of the season when Lamptey was injured. So I didn't understand the response to it.
No, he did it. But like when I first said it, like I said it when the first links, even like when it happened in May, I was very insistent. I said, we'll see it. And, it wasn't even just Brighton, Chris. Like we obviously saw the actual evidence. But for me, it was Leeds. Like the positions that he was taking up at Leeds.
Even before Leeds in that Peterborough, he was doing this stuff.
No, 100. Like he was doing the role, but like when you looked at Leeds in terms of specifically where he was receiving and build up and where he was going and how often he drove into midfield, and Leeds was actually more practice at DM at times as well, right? Like he did play DM at times there. I kept saying he's somebody that has huge final third potential. I kept telling everybody the crossing variety, the technique that Ben White has is incredible. Like in terms of his passing range, like it really is incredible. I don't know if people appreciate it enough because from short, medium to long range passing, this is a guy that has pretty much everything in his locker and he's got really good whip on the ball. Like for example, the half space cross that we've seen a little bit more of now because he's finding himself in that little half space role. We're seeing that cross a little bit more, but what he's got over other people is it's not floated. And I keep making this comment on videos before, like if you're going to really look at somebody's ability to have a good cross, and when we talk about whip, really analyze how much of that cross has an almost floated feel to it or a kind of a back foot chip. Bukayo Saka is a perfect example of this. I think when he does go from the left, it's a little bit of a different story. It's a lot more guided. It's a lot more purposeful. But if you look at some of his crosses from the right, Bukayo Saka crosses quite a bit of time are in that chip mold. Quite a bit. They're floated back post, and they're not sent with the direction of pace and power. Now, look, Fabio Vieira is a complete opposite in his technique. That's somebody that you can compare between two people in a similar position about how they cross. And for me, Ben has that. Ben has that ability to really generate power and whip and accuracy. Now, I think he's still trying to judge some of the angles a little bit, but he's got that power to really deliver a strong half-base cross. And of course, at the last part, straight line running power. that guy eats up 40, 50 yards, like legitimately 40, 50 yards in seconds. It's incredible. So I think for me, and now everyone's shouting Ben White right back. But look, sorry, to get back to the point, he could be an incredible DM. And I really think that down the line, like if you're talking 3-4 years with this squad and developing, right? Like we talked about how Tomiyasu could be a left center back. I do want another left-footed option down the line. I do. But I feel if Ben is going to be able to maximize his play time, he's going to have to transition himself into a DM eventually down the line. And he's got all the tools to be able to do it. I think his training, by the way, his ability to learn is just so good. His anticipation is incredible. Like when you start looking at making your own six, okay, in a lab. And that's something, by the way, that we'll probably have to do, even if we get a certain, carbohydrate side dish in the future. Like you're going to want to maximize your ability to create this six. And so what do you need? You need excellent anticipation, excellent straight line running power. You need somebody with great technique who has an excellent passing range. And you need to have somebody that can defend both in space, but also in isolation. Like those are your key traits that you need. And also he has to have like very good horizontal agility laterally. Like he has to be able to cover ground to the sides very quickly. And so when you start looking at these things, these are all things that Ben White excels in, by the way. Excellent straight line running power, excellent laterally. Okay. I think he's also removing one of his big weaknesses at right back, which is defending, kind of tricky wingers out wide. It's something that he did have as a weakness the season before. He's really learning how to do that really well. So for me, he's just, he's a proper two-way player. Exactly. He is a unicorn, but don't be surprised in 2 to 3 years. And everybody called me crazy when I said it right back at the beginning. You're going to see Ben White as a DM at some point. And I think that's kind of the natural evolution for him. And I'd love it, and I think I deserve. But, going into, we probably should just wrap up and kind of look at kind of team lineups and what you guys expect to see. So, Curran, I'll give you a chance to maybe is there any difference in the game plan? I don't know if we need to really review it for everybody because, guys, this is kind of something. I know that we have the first team on here, but Bodø set up very similarly to kind of this just in general. Last time in the preview, we did highlight how we're really going to have to attack that space down the sides because they do build up in a 3. So the space is going to be in that area. So whether, at left wing, that's going to be, Reece Nelson, Chris hopes, and I hope as well. I think Curran does as well. But, whoever that is, I think the wingers naturally are going to have quite a bit of space. So I hope that, Marquinhos makes advantage of it. He had an excellent performance away from home the other time, attacking the back post. So I really hope that the wingers are going to get a lot of joy in this game, if we do well. And I think that you're going to kind of see something like this dominate proceedings. Curran, is there anything that you have to add to kind of the game state? I think this is basically where the game is won.
So basically, the main thing for me is, as we've mentioned here, is to exploit the wide spaces. They defend they collapse ball side a lot when they hit their press. Even their back line, it's something that they did a lot. If you remember the Bodø review, I kept saying, look, I was there and I was on, and whenever it was the wing with the ball was far side from where I was, they literally just moved the entire block ball side. They're very aggressive in their press, but they leave spaces in behind. And I just really hope that whoever's playing right centre back or even left centre back has the foresight to think. And Mikel, I hope he's drilling into them. Look, you've got to do these switches. You've got to switch play. You've got so much space behind you. I don't care if it's not on someone's chest. Just put it in front of them. Put them in an area where they can attack. You just need that ability right now. And in terms of game plan, their build up is very good. They are very, very secure on the ball when it comes to that first phase build up. They tend to build up in a 5, and they are very, very adamant that they will play out from the back. So press intelligently, don't overcommit. Do not have Sambi running into spaces where he's providing a 5v5 and vacating his zone. That I think is going to be crucial. If you have someone vacating their zone and leaving space in behind, they can just play it, and you're basically cut through like they were in the second half in the last game. I think the other thing is we have to be a bit more cognizant of how we attack the box in terms of their in terms of the third man running we did against Bodø in the first leg. I think the first half we tended to get a bit frustrated. I think we had obviously the goal, so yeah, I think that's the main thing. But we need to be a bit more tighter, and I think technically we need to just keep going and just don't get frustrated. The last thing I want to say is you mentioned earlier about Fabio and Ødegaard being able to switch. Fabio, when he's on the left, plays a bit deeper and he's able to be a bit more of a controlling role as well. He's still not as aggressive as he is on the right. So if he does switch, I would love to see what he's like on the left, because I think that he can obviously do that role that we're asking Ødegaard to do as well. He has that's basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And guys, I think that essentially wraps it up. I think the big things, I hope to see Cedric in the lineup. We talked about that. So that's probably the only thing I really want to see. I want us to see just a little bit more rotation. So just instead of Martinelli, I'd like to see Nelson. And then, I think Xhaka will have to play. Like, this is just something, guys, get comfortable with it. He's going to have to do it until Elneny's back. So Xhaka can keep his place. But I do want to see Cedric and, of course, Tommy at left center back. But, guys, let's go into the predictions, really quickly. I'm going for a quick 3-0. I think that, for me, keeping the winning feeling going, but also continuing kind of, clean sheets is something that I don't think that we've seen enough of, by the way, like this season, just in general. Like, I want us to get another clean sheet. So, and I just think that, Mikel will want to use this to get the first real, like, away victory down. And it's starting a big list of away day fixtures, by the way, in terms of the cluster. We've got Leeds, then we've got Southampton coming up. I know we have Forest at home, but then we go to Stamford Bridge. And the next 5 games, I think 3 or 4 of them are away, just in general. So I want us to get our duct and start getting good. So 3-0 from me. And really quickly, Tommy, no, I don't think it's DM purely because of the running power. Tommy doesn't have the same acceleration in larger distances, and he also doesn't have the same ability higher up the pitch. I do think that he does struggle, and we could probably get into that another time, but no, I don't think he'll be a 6. Chris, I'll go to you. You said 2-1, I think, before off air.
2-1.
Yeah.
Is it changing?
Is it changing? Last chance.
I was feeling to change the 5-0.
There we go. This guy doesn't.
So 2-1 for Chris, and then current mate. How about you?
I'm going 4-0. I think Mikel will be a bit more cognizant of their threat. I think he'll execute plans to exploit their build up and try and be a bit more aggressive, and we can get a couple of goals hopefully in the first half and really push. So I'm going 4. I think 4 is enough.
4 is enough, he says. That's all he wants. And look, not Ted, but Knutson. He's got an excellent philosophy, and I really enjoy this game in particular, guys. By the way, because I think it's perfect practice for Leeds. They press really well. They're going to get at the back line, and although it's going to be the B team, just like naturally being able to deal with something like that in a game state sense is going to be really good practice for the team. Because when you go to Leeds, they're going to have a lot of gaps, but they're also going to want to press you in the first phase. So I think it's just really good succession of games. Bodø, then you get Leeds, and then I guess you get Southampton that can press with better distances. So I think it's just a really nice progression tactically looking at it. But guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hit that bell for notifications to know when in fact we do upload. You can find all the boys' socials down below at GeorgeV_AFC for myself. You can find Chris at CKFTBL. You can find Curran at Curran BOP, and we are Ball Over Passion here at YouTube, or you can find us at BOP Footy on Twitter. So, of course, there's that, Instagram stuff if you guys want. So, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us, and we will catch you guys tomorrow for the review. So, catch you guys later, and have a good one, guys. Peace.
Peace.